privileged to welcome our esteemed participants to our international webinar theme, The Ingredients of Transformational Leadership, organized by Department of Management Studies and Department of Economics of Birla College, Autonomous Kalyan. We are delighted to have such a diverse audience for today's webinar. Our webinar would not be possible without the pillar of support and driving force of Shri O.R. Chitlange Sir, Chairman Governing Council, BK Birla College and BK Birla Public School, Director Dr. Naresh Chandra Sir, Principal Dr. Avinash Patil Sir, Vice Principal Ismita Gupta Ma'am, Head Department of Management Studies Professor Anil Tiwari, Head Department of Economics Mahadeo Yadav Sir, all faculty members and the participants. Today, we are proud to have with us an eminent guest speaker with whom we are associated from last so many years. And he is none other than Dr. Beheruz Sethna, President Emeritus and Regent Professor of Business of Richard College of Business, University of West Georgia, USA. I now request our Principal, Dr. Avinash Patil Sir, for the welcome address.
Good evening all, and good morning to Professor Beheruz Sethna Sir. Our esteemed keynote speaker, Professor Beheruz Sethna Sir, President Emeritus and Regents Professor of Business, Richards College of Business, University of West Georgia, USA. Dr. Naresh Chandra Sir, Director Education, BK Birla College, Kalyan. Mr. Anil Tiwari, in charge, Department of Management Studies. Dr. Mahadeo Yadav, Head, Department of Business Economics, BK Birla College, Kalyan. All Vice Principals, Head of the Departments, our colleagues and dear participants. We all are at home due to unique lockdown situation worldwide. To stay safe for ourselves, for our family and friends in this pandemic situation of COVID-19. Worldwide, this has affected the economy. Many equations and scenarios have changed in the field of education as well as business. Hence, our faculty members from Department of Management Studies and Department of Economics thought of organizing a webinar on the topic, the ingredients of transformational leadership. And just now, as said by Ms. Akansha, to deliver this webinar, we have with us Professor Beheruz Sethna, President Emeritus and Regents Professor of Business, Richards College of Business, University of West Georgia. We extend a warm welcome to Professor Beheruz Sethna Sir on behalf of College and Management. We have a special relations with Professor Beheruz Sethna Sir and University of West Georgia. BK Birla College have signed an MOU with University of West Georgia for faculty and student exchange. Till date, many faculty members from our college have visited University of West Georgia under this faculty exchange program and have stayed on the campus for academic activities and experienced the warmth of the hospitality at the campus. Similarly, the faculty members from University of West Georgia have also visited BK Birla College, Kalyan. Professor Beheruz Sethna Sir also have a special soft corner for our college. Every year when he visits India, he keeps one entire day for the students of BK Birla College, Kalyan and conducts workshop on various models with reference to the statistical analysis. Sir, we thank you for accepting our invitation for this webinar. We are also blessed with the presence of Dr. Naresh Chandra Sir, Director Education, BK Birla College, Kalyan, who is a constant source of inspiration to all of us. We welcome him for this webinar. We also welcome all the faculty members and participants for this webinar. We once again welcome one and all for this webinar on the topic, the ingredients of transformational leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Patil.
Thank you, sir.
It is both an honor and a privilege to introduce before you a very own, humble and very well known Dr. Beheruz Sethna, President Emeritus and Regent Professor of Business, Richard College of Business, University of West Georgia, USA. From 1994 to June 2013, Dr. Sethna served as President of the institution now known as the University of West Georgia. When he retired, he was the longest serving university president in the state of Georgia. During his tenure as president, the institution saw transformative change from a college to a state university to a PhD granting highest level 6 university. During Dr. Sethna's tenure, University of West Georgia academic standards increased several times and full-time enrollment increased by approximately 50% to close to 12,000 students. Almost 40 new buildings have been added during his tenure at UWG. During his tenure, University of West Georgia awarded more than 33,000 plus degrees, and every other presidential administration combined in the institution's 107-year history. The endowment was increased by more than 10 times its 1994 level. Dr. Sethna has also served 2 terms in the year 1999 and 2006 on an interim basis as Senior and then Executive Vice Chancellor for the entire university system of Georgia. As Tom Peters said, the leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. Dr. Sethna has helped develop, mentor, and give opportunities to many senior administrators, some of whom have reached the position of President and Vice Chancellor. He is the first known person of Indian origin to become president of a university in America. He was the first person of any ethnic minority to become president of a college or university in Georgia other than a historically black college. Moving towards his recognition, honors, and awards, although Dr. Sethna would be the first to state that UWG's accomplishment have been a team effort. Perhaps some of that recognition falls to its president of 19 years. For example, UWG is nationally known in academic debate and undergraduate research. UWG won 2 national championships in academic debate and beat Harvard 4 times in his last 5 years as president. During a 15-year time span, University of West Georgia beat every university in America 8 times in undergraduate research papers at the National Collegiate Honors Council. UWG won 6 prizes at the National Social Sciences Association. 6 out of the 7 have been from Dr. Sethna's class. He taught a course each year as president. He was elected Honors Professor of the Year by the students of Honors College. He has received personal resolution of commendation from the Governor of the State of Georgia and the House of the State of Georgia and from the State of Georgia Board of Regents, and has been named among the 100 most influential Georgians 6 times. The Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia has also awarded him several other honors. It named him a Regent Professor, the first Regent Professor in all the 110-year history of University of West Georgia, and named him President Emeritus. Earlier, the board awarded Dr. Sethna the prestigious Cornerstone Award, which is not an annual award, but it is given occasionally. In the year 2012-13, UWG was named the Customer Service Institution of the Year, and Dr. Sethna the Customer Service President of the Year. He has had hundreds of media appearances to his credit base on his academic work and his administrative contributions, including national TV appearances such as CBS Early Show with Brian Gumbel and CNN American Stories. Dr. Sethna is a distinguished alumnus of the two most prestigious higher education institutions in India, Asia, IIT Bombay and IIM Ahmedabad. It is estimated that no more than a handful of people hold both these honors. He has been a Fulbright professor and has taught some of the most prestigious institutions in India and South Asia. He also taught a landmark program in computers in Nepal, taught to senior professionals from the national government, higher education, and the corporate sector. On July 4, 2014, he was honored by the Carnegie Corporation by being named one of the great immigrants, the pride of America. One of his post-administration honor, which I wish to share, that in the year 2017, Dr. Sethna was elected Beta Gamma Sigma Professor of the Year by students in the Honor Society for Business. Also in 2017, he received a Faculty Research Award in the Richard College of Business, and in 2018, he received a Faculty Teaching Award. In April 2016, he presented a TEDx talk entitled An American Star. That talk was published on May 17, 2016. About his social activities, Dr. Sethna teaches in the summers at Balgram, an orphanage school in rural Maharashtra. Dr. Sethna was named the most outstanding Zoroastrian professional in the world in 2014. Dr. Sethna, about his family life, Dr. Sethna has been married for more than 46 years to the multi-talented Dr. Madhvi Sethna, who has an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and MA from Columbia University, and MS from Clarkson University, and her doctorate from University of West Georgia. Together, they have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. Dr. Anita Sethna is a surgeon specializing in facial plastic and reconstructive surgery at Emory University, married to Dr. Robert Coley, a cardiologist. Sean Sethna is an intellectual property attorney in Houston, married to Sunita Shirodkar, also an attorney. So it's an honor to have you with us, sir. I now request, sir, to kindly proceed with the session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for inviting me. I am honored to be here. I just want to affirm that you can see me and hear me all right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to share my screen with you so that you can see the PowerPoint presentation that I have. I'm going to use. But before I start that, the fundamental topic that I want to talk about is what we call transformational leadership, or sometimes called transformative leadership. What that means is that not making incremental changes. Now, I'm grateful for that long introduction, but it served a purpose to say basically that the institution that I inherited in 1994 was transformed completely, that it was a different institution when I left 19 years later. I've not left it, I'm still there, but as a professor. When I left the presidency 19 years later, it was a transformed institution. I inherited a college, it's now the highest level of university. I inherited a smaller institution of about 7,500. I left it at 12,000 students. So that's what we're talking about. 40 new buildings were constructed. So that's the kind of transformational or transformative leadership that we're talking about. That it's not just incremental, that not just you're a little better, but you're a completely different kind of place. That's what we are talking about. And for that to happen, as I've made very clear, there are a number of factors and a number of people who get credit for that. I take it you can see the screen now. Can you see my screen, my PowerPoint?
Yes, please.
All right. So, and I've purposely used two words that don't go together. This is deliberate. Normally, you don't talk of being bold and humble at the same time, but I believe that that is important. That is important to stress, that you need to be bold and humble at the same time. And so that's what my talk is going to be on. So what are those ingredients that we are talking about, the title of the presentation today? The ingredients are vision, communication, modeling behavior, teamwork, humility, decision-making, and a unique concept called the SPA, which I will share with you at the end of this presentation, which is something that all of you, everyone, whether you're a student or a faculty member or administrator, you can all use tomorrow. This is immediately implementable, the SPA concept that we are talking about. But let me start with vision. Before I start with vision, I will say again what is part of my resume, that this huge and wonderful set of changes that took place, a lot of people get credit for that. Tremendous number of talented colleagues that I have get credit for this transformational leadership phenomenon and this transformational change. But there is one thing that a leader does completely by himself or herself, and that is vision. That is something that is uniquely one person. It's not a one person's vision, but it's one person's vision for the whole institution. So let me give you a little bit of background as to what was the situation when I became president of this, what was that time it was called West Georgia College in 1994. My first day on the job was the end of August, 29th of August, 1994. At that time, the college was in a very disgruntled state, very poor morale was prevailing at that time. The college was fine. It was academically it was fine. Financially it was okay, but the morale was down. The morale was down because we were still a college. The people who had led the institution, and I don't mean just the president, but other people as well who were well-wishers of the institution, had tried very hard to make it into a university. And they had failed. Not only that, but another similar kind of institution, and the name of that institution is Valdosta State. That institution had been made into a university. It was Valdosta State College, and now when I came in, it was Valdosta State University. So that institution was very similar to ours. So it was very demoralizing for that one to get university status when we had not. Now, the reason they got it was some political reason, but nonetheless, whatever the reason was, it was a very poor time morale-wise. So everywhere I went, when I include students and faculty and staff and community members and leaders of the community and so on, I arrived actually in August, as I said, 29th of August, but the term started, the new year for us at that time started in mid-September, actually late September, 21st, I think, 21st of September. That was the way we were structured at that time. Nowadays we start much earlier, but still in August. But in that time, it was the third week of September. So I had 3 weeks before the start of the new year to learn more about the institution. Now, I already came in knowing a lot because I'd read all the material, but it still makes a difference to talk face to face with many groups. So for the first 3 weeks before the official start of the year, I had met a lot of individual people. And those people had told me about this concern they had about Valdosta State. And everywhere I went, I heard the phrase, Valdosta, we are almost as good as Valdosta. Why are they a university? Why are we not a university? So that was the situation I inherited. Now, there's an important part, an event in an American institution at the start of the academic year. The president of the institution addresses the whole community, the whole faculty and staff. And if it's too big a gathering, we do it in separate sessions, students, faculty, staff. And of course, it's even more important when a new president comes in. So that I had to plan what I was going to say for my first talk to the faculty and the staff and the students. And everywhere, as I said, I had heard this demoralizing effect of Valdosta. So I resolved to myself that I was not going to mention Valdosta, in spite of the fact that everyone was focused on that. So let me go to the next slide of the vision. In the vision, you must see potential that others cannot see. And when you set a vision for, and this could be a vision for a college, it could be a vision for a club, a student club, an organization, it could be your own personal vision. But this is the phrase that I want you to keep in mind when you set your vision. The phrase is, be bold, make no little plans. So this is the bold part coming up. Remember I said there were two opposing concepts, bold and humble. So this is the bold part. And the phrase is make no little plans. An architect by the name of Daniel Burnham once said, make no little plans. They have no magic to stir people's blood. Okay? So when you make a plan, make a bold plan. Otherwise you don't get people excited about it. So this is his quote, make no little plans. They have no magic to stir people's blood. Now, he was an architect, so when he was talking of plans, he was talking of architectural plans. I'm using it in the context of your plans and my plans. I'm talking about human plans. I'm talking about organizational plans. Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir people's blood. So this is what I did for my first talk. Now, I didn't know of Daniel Burnham at that time. Of course, he had already said that quote, but I didn't know about that. But I was determined to make a bold plan, to put a bold vision on the table. So I was not going to mention Valdosta, which, as I said, was a very similar institution in terms of quality, in terms of size, in terms of many characteristics to the institution I had inherited. But I was going to I was not made a deliberate decision not to mention, not to compare us with Valdosta. I mentioned only one other university at that time, and that university was Harvard. So I said, this is what we're going to do. We are going to find a niche, and I'll come back to that word. We are going to find a niche where we can play on the same stage as Harvard. So I was not pegging us, I was not anchoring us with Valdosta, I was anchoring us with Harvard. That was the bold plan. And that was the important thing to set before the community who was focused on Valdosta. And I was saying, no, don't think of Valdosta, think of how we can compete with Harvard. So that was the bold part of it. And so when I said that, let me go back. When I said that, of course, the whole audience, all the audiences that I spoke with, thought I was crazy. Because here we are competing against Harvard, against Valdosta, and they are talking, and this new guy is coming and talking about Harvard. So actually one senior faculty member came to me after my talk and said, half the people in the audience think you're crazy. He said, why are you talking about Harvard? I said, well, no, that was intentional. That was intentional. So I said, what about the other half of people? He said, the first half think you're crazy, the other half know you're crazy. So that was the reaction he had. So yes, people will think that you are crazy to have such bold plans, but that's what actually happened. As you already know from the introduction, in my last 5 years, we beat Harvard. We didn't just play on the same stage, which was my vision. We actually beat it 4 times out of 5. Similarly, in terms of undergraduate research, we found that was the other niche. The other undergraduate research. We were at the top of the scale 8 times, eight years. So that's another way that we came onto the national stage. Now let me come to a technical point that I said I would address, and that is called a niche. This is a marketing concept, and you're all business students, so you know about marketing, business students and faculty. So a niche means that if you have a big market, you find a part of the market where you can be second to none. That's an important marketing concept. So you don't have to compete with Harvard on all dimensions. You can find one area where you can be really, really good. That's called a niche. So we found 2 niches. We found undergraduate research and academic debate. To be among countries best in these 2 things. So we were never Harvard, nor we were going to be Harvard, but we could be better than Harvard in one small area. That's the concept of niches. You create a small corner and you aim to be better than anyone else in that corner. So that's the concept of how we did it. And we did it, of course, it took many years. It was 10 years before we started winning competitions and so on and so forth. It took a lot of effort, a lot of resources, a lot of blood, toil, tears, and sweat to get there, but we got there. Quite aside from that, a kind of fun thing happened just after I made this crazy speech. Half the faculty think you're crazy. So just when I made that speech, people thought I was crazy. But that happened in about the 21st of September of 1994. In the first week of November of 94, there was a major election, and the election was a big election that turned the power from one to the other. And I'm not making a political speech here, but in a very interesting way, this is what happened. Newsweek did a report on the national election. This was nothing to do with us. And they did a kind of a fun piece in a column over here in the corner of the page. The so-and-so is in, so-and-so is out, because the power had shifted in the nation. Just like when a government changes in India, this government changed in the national field, and people who were in and out in different times, these were there. And if you can see, you can't see this very well, but here in the bottom of the page, I've expanded it. This is what it says. It said that Harvard was out and West Georgia College was in. This was in the Newsweek of November, roughly November and 3rd week of November, when they did a report. So I had a lot of fun with that page. I made copies of it. I made color copies of it. And I showed everyone, say, you thought I was crazy. Now Newsweek is saying that Harvard is out and West Georgia is in. This was just, as I said, this was just a fun thing. We had nothing to do with this, but I enjoyed it anyway. So sometimes when you're bold, you get lucky. And of course, then the hard work started, that we had to work 10 years, maybe 11 years, 12 years to get really, this is just a fun thing, but to really beat Harvard and to beat other universities, we had to do a lot of work. Okay, so that is what we talk about vision. This is the bold part. So remember, we said bold and humble. So I talked about the bold part, an ingredient for transformational leadership. Now let's go to the other very important part. Even if you have a great vision, unless you can communicate well, there is no chance that anyone will be able to understand or appreciate your vision. So for all of you, this is not related to just the topic of vision, but for all of you, communication is very important. And for me, the biggest lesson of effective communication is the concept of humility, the first word over there. Humility is the important thing. Why humility? Why humility is important for communication? Because the whole concept of communication is I'm conveying something that is in my head and I'm trying to convey it to you, or you are trying to convey something in your head to me. To be able to do that, you have to realize many things. First of all, you don't have all the answers. I don't. When I was president and today and ever, I don't approach communication as being I'm the authority. I never approach it that way. I approach it as this is what I have to offer. These are the lessons I have learned. So even today as I speak to you, I'm not pretending that I have all the answers. I'm simply saying this has worked for me. I'm sharing it with you. If it's useful to you, please use it. If it's not useful to you, if I'm leaving out something that doesn't apply to you, so be it. So you have to have that humility. The other part about humility is that when you express something in words or in writing, you don't know how the other person is receiving it. So what is the best way to know? The best way to know is, again, to have humility and say, you know what, I'm not sure whether it's being received, and so I want to ask you whether you're hearing me. You noticed even at the start of this presentation, I said, can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you see the slide? That's feedback. That's called feedback. By the way, my degree from IIT Bombay was in electrical engineering, and electrical engineers understand very well what feedback is. So I need some feedback to know that my communication is going well. I have to have the humility in me to ask. And so I'm going to take a break and ask you, are you able to see my face or are you not? So please somebody give me feedback on that. Can you see the slide, or can you see the face, or can you see both?
We can see the slide, sir.
You can't see my face.
Face also we can see.
So we can see both.
We can see both.
As well as the slides, sir.
All right. Okay. So that is important. That's part of humility in action. That I'm not just talking, I'm looking for feedback. So this is a good idea for you when you are making an important presentation, either orally or in writing. Ask other people's opinions. Share a draft with someone you trust. Share a draft. Effective communication requires seeing things from the perspective of others. How can I see things from your perspective? I ask for feedback. Ask for feedback. Is it working? And you have to have the humility to understand that others may perceive something. This is another marketing concept. Others may perceive something a different way than you perceive it. Again, this is all humility. So understand that you have to do that. Share a draft with someone. Once I had a colleague of mine who said, stop sharing drafts with us. It's a sign of weakness. I said, no, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength, because only a strong person can receive feedback. Because if you are afraid, if you are insecure, if you're an insecure person, you don't want to receive feedback. You say, stay away. If you're a secure person, you say, I am secure, but I need to improve continuously. There's a phrase, again, in management literature called continuous improvement. So I seek to improve continuously. Next month, I will be 72 years old. I still want to learn. I have a lot to learn, even at my age. So understand that you have to have the humility to ask, you have the humility to share your drafts, you have to have the humility to get feedback. Now, for most people, not in a hierarchical situation, like students asking other students for help and feedback, that is an easier thing. When you are a leader, when you have the position to hire and fire people, not so much in India, I know it's not easy to hire people, but still you have the power to hire people, to promote people, or to recommend people for promotion. But when you have the hiring and firing and promotion ability, then people are afraid of giving you feedback. Now, the worst thing that can happen is I'm doing this dress rehearsal presentation because I've got an important presentation coming up next week to a board of regents or something like that. And I'm talking to my vice presidents and deans, and everyone just shakes their head saying, oh boy, boss, this is great. This is wonderful. You did a great job. Don't change anything. You're just perfect. That feedback is useless. I want feedback to tell me, for people to tell me, yes, this part is working. This part is not working. So if you genuinely want feedback, you have to set up a culture that people can give you feedback. And that is something I'm also very proud of, that I set a culture very early that if you disagree with me, that's okay. Disagree with me privately, disagree with me respectfully, but disagree. So again, part of this humility is I don't have all the answers. If you don't approach learning from that way, I don't have all the answers. I'm here to teach and I'm here to learn. So that's my strong belief. Model the behavior you wish to see. If something is important to the character of the company that you're in, don't just talk about it, do it and be seen doing it. That is also very important. So let me give you an example. We have, and I'm very proud of this, that we have a large campus. It is 645 acres. That's like a city almost. It's so large. When I came, it was 345 acres, and I increased it by another 70%. Approximately. So it's a large campus, and it's a very, very beautiful campus, extremely beautiful. Some of the buildings that I inherited were old, so not all the buildings were beautiful, some of them were. But there's a lot of grass and trees and so on and so forth, lots of lawns. It's a very beautiful campus. And we take the care of that campus very seriously. So if the president of the university, we became, I didn't tell you this. When I came in, it was a college, and within 2 years, I had made it into a university. I got approval to be a university, and we became a state university. And then finally, we became a full-blown university about 8 years later. So I was able to see the transition from a college to a state university to a full-blown university, and then to the highest possible of universities with PhD program and so on. So that's what the progression of the institution was. But at the heart, we were still a very beautiful campus. We cared for people and so on. So I'm going to give you 2 examples of the behavior I wish to see. So as president of this place, I certainly was very, very proud of our beautiful campus. So if I expect people to keep it beautiful, what do I need to do? I don't need to just talk about it. So let me give you an actual example. In America, colleges and universities compete to get good students. So we don't just put up an ad in the paper and applications come in. We have to fight to get good students. So we have these big, what we call preview days, where parents and students come to check out the campus, to visit the campus, to walk around the campus, to see the dorms, to see the classrooms. But at the start of that, the president addresses all of them. So I used to welcome them and so on. So I made my usual speech about how great we were, what the faculty did and so on and so forth, that your child, your son or daughter would be happy over here. And so I made that speech. And after the speech, they disperse and they go into different directions. to the dorm, some go to the class, some go to the dining hall, so on. So after the speech, I was headed out to my car, and a mother and her son also walked out just behind me. I didn't know that they were behind me, but they were walking out behind me, and they were also going to other parts of the campus. And there I noticed a piece of paper, one of these candy bars someone had taken and just thrown it on the grass. So I do this. When I see something on the floor, I will pick it up. So I picked it up and took it and threw it in the trash can. And I do this, by the way, let me tell you, I do this religiously. Even now that I'm not president, I still do that. I believe that it's important for me to keep things clean as well. So when this mother saw me, she said, "Are you the president or are you the janitor?" Janitor means the person who cleans the grounds and so on. And my answer was, I am both. So if you want a beautiful campus, pick up the stuff yourself and let people see you doing that. And as I said, I still do that. Even years after I've stopped being president, I still take the personal care of the campus seriously. Another example, in America, there's what we call a pecking order of seniority. So faculty members who don't have their PhD usually teach the first year courses. As you become an assistant professor and so on, you start teaching senior level students. As you're going to become a full professor, then you're teaching the senior students and what in India is called postgraduate students. In America, we call them graduate students, like masters and PhD students and so on. So the senior faculty get to teach the senior students in general. But I believe very strongly that the students' careers and lives are started at the first year level. So when I was president, first of all, I did a very unusual thing. I used to teach every year when I was president. I used to teach only one course, but I taught. So not only did I teach, but of course, as president, I could have taught any course I wanted. I chose to teach a first year course. It was a combined course for first and second years. I chose to teach that course. And I taught one of those courses for every single year while I was president. Not the same course, but different courses, but both at the first year and second year level. Again, why? If something is important to the character of the institution, you have to do it yourself. You can't just order people to do it. You have to do it. So in a student club, for example, in a student organization, if you believe that you're going to clean up some place, and I did this when I was in India too, when I was a student in India, I used to do this as social service projects, go clean up some place that was messy and had all kachra in it and so on. So I used to do that in IIT when I was in St. Xavier's College and St. Xavier's School. I did that as well. I don't want the senior students to order the junior students to do it. If it is important, do it yourself. That is part of the boldness and the humility of leadership. Leaders need to be seen doing these things. And so that's my belief. So if something is important to me, I do it myself. So if I can't just talk as president saying, hey, faculty, it is important to teach well at the first year and second year level. If it's important, then let me do it. So I have done that myself. And so these are two examples. One is picking up the trash, the kachra, and the other one is teaching the lower level courses, the junior level courses that other people don't want to take. Okay, next slide. More humility and teamwork. Teamwork is very important. Most of the time, and you've heard me say this already 2 times in this presentation, that the wonderful things that happened at West Georgia was because of other very talented people. It's the team. It's not just the leader. The leader has to understand that he or she is effective if the people are effective, or if the people are strong and effective. So the job of the leader is to hire the right people and let them do their jobs. Don't micromanage them. Once you hire a right person, let him or her do the job. Those people are talented. Your job is only to hire the best talent. After that, get out of the way. Let them do their job. And of course, give advice, give help, and so on, support. Other things for a leader to do: say thank you. Say thank you. It's very important. Say great job. Don't be hesitant with your praise. And finally, the last bullet is something that is uniquely mine, and another one of those things where people thought I was crazy. Every 5 years, now understand that I was president for 19 years, so every 5 years, I would write a major column in the local newspaper to praise people who had done a great job in the past 5 years. I didn't do it every year, maybe I should have, but 5 years it had a better impact because it wasn't an annual thing. And the title of the column, I wrote this 4 times, every 5 years, roughly every 5 years. And each time I wrote the column, I used the same title and the same introduction and the same ending, but the middle was different. So the title of the column was always this: look at me, somebody else did it. Let me say that again. Don't look at me, somebody else did it. Now that phrase is normally used for deflecting blame, saying, hey, I didn't do it, someone else did it. I deliberately use that provocative title to say, don't give me the praise, somebody else deserves that praise. And in that column, I mention people's names and I mention what they had done. So as president, I got the credit and I got the blame for everything. I'm comfortable with the blame. I'm not comfortable with getting the credit for doing everything. So I had to deflect, not the blame, but the credit, to say, don't look at me, somebody else did it. She did it. This was her idea. She implemented it. He implemented that. These were the things, and it would appear in public, in the newspaper, where everyone could see it. And so that is an important part of sharing credit. Now, why did I do that? First of all, I did it because it's the right thing to do. But secondly, I also did it as a motivator. What do you think that person who had just been mentioned in the paper saying, this is what that person did, what do you think that person is going to do when he or she comes back to the office? They are going to be even more motivated to do great things. That's another part of this. So say thank you, say great job, say don't look at me, somebody else deserves that credit. So this is part of teamwork and it's part of humility, to share credit. So this is a copy of one of those articles. I think this was the last one I wrote. Don't look at me, someone else did it. And so I start off by, because it's every 5 years, nobody remembers what I said 5 years ago. So I repeat the first thing saying, this is a way to deflect credit. So I said that in the start of it. At the end, and I'm going to read this to you. I need to put on my glasses to read that. So I read part of it. So if they did all of that, so by the way, the bulk of this is giving names, giving specific names. These are names of people mentioned who have done great things. But at the end of the article, I say, so if they did that, what did I do? So this is what I said. On a good day, I got out of the way and let my colleagues do what they do best. Educational excellence in a personal environment. That was our theme. So on a good day, that's what I do. I get out of the way and let them do what they do best. On a very good day, I helped them do what they do best. So I actually got more money from someone, I got a gift from somebody, and I gave it to them so that they could do a better job. So that would be a very good day. On a great day, even better, great day, I hired one of these people, or I helped hire one of those people. That would be a great day because these people then do great things. On a really terrific day, I had a good idea myself. So this was self-deprecating humor saying, you know, all of these ideas that did great things for the university didn't come from me. Rarely I had a good idea myself. And so that's what I said. On a very terrific day, I got one good idea myself. But it's my colleagues and friends who get the credit for accomplishing most of the great things that UWG did. And in that same last paragraph, I thanked my family, my wife, my family, my children, my in-law, their spouses, and so on. And that's what I did. And the last one is, don't look at me, you did it. And so deflect. Me, you did it. And so deflect credit as other people may deflect blame, but the bulk of this article was all about specific names and specific things that other people had done, and other people did a great job. And that's what helped the university grow. Okay, decision making. Let's come to decision making. You need speed and you need input. So both things are common. The trouble with academic life is that academics move too slowly. I've worked in the corporate world and I've worked in the academic world. The corporate world moves much faster. The academic world moves much slower. That doesn't have to be so. You should be able to move faster. So set up processes that will make things go faster. You can have input, you can have honest input, but in today's world, you can be helping with the input or looking at the input from your home. You don't have to have big meetings. You can have Zoom meetings, you can have these meetings, you can have GoToMeeting, you can have all these other meetings. So all of these things are available in the technology that you can have input and speed. But then I want to talk about being scared. Sometimes decisions are difficult and scary, but you have to make the tough decisions anyway. You have to have humility, I don't know it all, and boldness. Let's do this. Again, humility and boldness, these two things go together. So let me give you some actual examples of times that I was scared, but I made the right decision anyway. And that's the important thing. It's okay to be scared, but you have to make the tough decisions anyway. Let me start with something I did when I was a student in India at IIT. So you probably have heard of the ragging culture at IIT. I don't know what it is like today, but when I was a student there, I joined IIT Bombay in 1966, so this is the mid-60s. And so the ragging culture was pretty bad at that time. I was in one of the hostels, it's called Hostel 4 in IIT Bombay, and we had a good fortune at that time that it just so happened that we had a very large first-year student batch coming in. By the way, in those days, IIT was 5 years. It started, you were 5 years in a lockstep, full-blown bachelor's program. Many years later, they made it a 4-year, but I went through the 5-year program. So in the first year, you were at the bottom of the heap. Fortunately for us, in Hostel 4, we had a large influx of first-year students. So we had far more than all the other years put together. We just got lucky. So I was a very strong believer in no ragging. And so I got together with a bunch of first year students and we worked out early warning signals and so on in a certain way that the moment anyone felt threatened, a code word would be sent and like 50 or 100 first year students would descend upon those people who were doing the ragging and it would just dissipate. So that was the early warning system that we had devised and it worked very well. Okay, so that handled the situation in the first year. And then I started becoming senior. So I was a second year student. In the second year, I got onto the student council. And in the third year, General Secretary of the hostel. In my fourth year, I was General Secretary of the whole institution. In my fifth year, I was General Secretary of my electrical engineering department. So all this leadership thing started very early in my career. I give credit to India and IIT for giving me these opportunities. So I was actually General Secretary 3 times in my 5 years. And in the second year, I was also on the student council. So we, as a senior student, I remembered what I'd felt like as a first year student. And I prevented ragging in my hostel completely. In hostel 4, there was nothing. For my 5 years there, it ended. So that was a powerful thing because now I have the seniority to make it work. And if anybody came and tried to mess with the first year students, they were simply told to leave. They said, get out, you're not welcome here. If anyone came from another hostel, if a person from our own hostel was there, we sort of just clamped down on that person completely. So this is the thing that I'm talking about. There are fake traditions. Not all traditions are good. I discard completely that, oh, it's a tradition. It's not a tradition. It's garbage. It's just designed to make people feel bad. That's all it is. And so I got rid of it. I actually got rid of ragging in the IIT Bombay, which was known for its ragging. Now, I only could do it in my hostel. I couldn't do it all over the campus, but I did end it in my hostel. I'm very proud of that. But before all of that happened, let me tell you about a time when we went to Ncc Camp. Now, I assume that you still have Ncc at in India. But for us, it was compulsory. You had to be in NCC. And I came to IIT after 2 years at St. Xavier's College. I did my SSC, so 1 year, first year was, of course, I had to do that. But after my first year, I got into IIT. I really didn't want to go there, so I actually turned it down. Next year, my dad insisted that I apply again, and I applied again and got in again. And this time he came with me to make sure that I accepted the admission. So I had 2 years at St. Xavier's before I came to IIT. In those 2 years at St. Xavier's, I had already gone through a lot of training and so on, and already was rising in the ranks of NCC. So when I arrived at IIT as a first year student, I was already a pretty senior NCC student. And then at IIT, I kept up my passion and I took extra exams, I went to extra training. And by the time in our first year, we went for a camp, I was a very senior NCC cadet. In fact, I was the most senior NCC cadet in the whole camp, which included first, second, and third year students. So I had more NCC seniority and NCC experience than even the third year students. So at the camp, I was the most senior cadet. So during the camp, the third year students pulled out the pegs from a first-year student's tent and made it crash down on top of their heads. And this was pretty dangerous. This is not just a fun thing. There are solid poles there, and it actually hurt someone's head. So as the most senior cadet, I was really mad about that. So I went immediately, this is now in the middle of the night, this is like midnight. I went to the commanding officer and I said, look, I'm the most senior cadet here. Will you entrust me to handle this situation? And that person was thrilled that a student was taking charge of the thing. He said, sure, go ahead. So I woke up the whole third year class in the middle of the night and made them do parade at midnight or 1 a.m. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Agreed, I'm the most senior cadet at the camp, but next week we are going to be back on campus and I'm the most junior person on campus as a first year student. So was I scared? Of course I was scared. What would these third year students do to me next week? But I made the right decision anyway, and I made the tough decision anyway. So I'm not a fool. I know that the camp is going to end. I know that we are going to be back on campus, but I made those decisions anyway. So that's what I mean. Sometimes you're scared, sometimes you're afraid of what might happen, but you made them anyway. So I weathered that storm. Of course, there were a few people who wanted my blood in my head because of that, but that's okay. That's okay. Even in adult life, even when I was president, there are times that because it was the right thing to do, I have stared down a governor. There was a governor here, nice guy. I mean, I'm still friendly with him, but he wanted to make a very bad decision from the faculty point of view. And so I went to his home, actually. I went to the governor's mansion for another topic, had breakfast with him, just him and me, just sitting across a small round table. And after his work was over, I said, look, I need to talk to you about this. And I argued that point with him, saying, please don't do this, and this is the reason why, and so forth and so on. And I thought he would actually fire me for that. I mean, he had the authority to not directly fire me, but he can pick up the phone and tell the chancellor, get rid of this person. He didn't do that. But was I scared? Of course I was scared. I was very scared at that time, but I made those tough decisions anyway. So that's another thing that I leave with you. Sometimes you're worried, but do it anyway. Let me go to the next slide. Finally, let me end with the SPA. I told you this was something that you can use tomorrow. And you can use it if you're a student, you can use it as your faculty member, you can use it if you're an administrator. That stands for the single point of accountability, SPA, single point of accountability. How many times have you been in a meeting where everyone is generally agreed, yeah, this would be a nice thing to do, whatever it is. Yeah, we should probably do that. This seems like a good thing to do. And most people are agreed and so on. Everyone shakes their head. And then you come back 2 weeks later and nothing's been done. And everyone says, this would be a nice thing to do. And then you go away again and 2 weeks later, nothing's been done again. So that process needs to end if you want to be an effective leader. The moment there is reasonable consensus, or even sometimes without complete consensus, the leader has to say, okay, we're going to get this done, and this person is going to do it. You need to have a single point of accountability. One person has to take the lead. Remember this phrase, if everyone is responsible, no one is responsible. I'm going to say that again. If everyone is responsible for getting something done, no one is responsible. And that thing will not be done. And the next time you meet, everyone will shake their heads again very wisely. Everyone will say very wisely, yes, yes, this needs to be done, and nothing will be done. So before you leave a meeting, any meeting, whether it's a student meeting, a faculty meeting, an administrator meeting, say this person will get it done, and by this date. So two things need to be put in the minutes. So-and-so will get it done, and this is the date you get it done. But, there's a big but. You can't do that without having the authority to get it done. So the leader has to designate that person with that authority. So let me give you an actual example. We had a situation. We have, at that time, there were 34 different colleges and universities in the state of Georgia. So you heard in the introduction that I was interim executive vice chancellor for all of these 34 institutions. All of those presidents, not all of those presidents, 17 of those reported to me and others reported to anyone, but I was responsible for the academic affairs of that. So there's a central board that's called a Board of Regents, and they are the controllers of all of these 34 institutions. And they meet 10 times a year, roughly, not every month, but almost every month. And they meet in their home office in Atlanta. Many years ago, they decided it would be nice to visit campuses and have one of these board meetings at a campus. So they decided to do this have 2 campus meetings during the year. Now do the calculations in your head, 34 institutions, they make 2 campus visits a year. So when is the next time that they would come? How many years between the time they've been there and come back? And it was not a perfect 2 a year, sometimes it was a little longer. So the Board of Regents decided to come to my campus one time. And so I talked with all the senior faculty and said, you know what, I've been here quite a few years and I've never had one of these board meetings on my campus. So when last were they here? And even the senior faculty couldn't remember, I'd say maybe 20 years ago. And if you do the calculations, it'll probably be at least 17 years before they come back. So you're talking roughly a 40-year window, 40 years. And you're in the middle of these 40 years, plus minus, 20 years on this side, 20 years on this side, you're in the middle of this. You have 40 years, you have one chance in 40 years to make a good impression because the whole board is going to be on your campus. So think of the stakes of that. If you mess up, you probably be another 20 years before anyone comes back. So you have a window, one chance in 40 years to make a great impression. How will you do that? What will you do? So rather than say, oh, everyone's going to do his or her part, we said, no, we want one SPA, one single point of accountability. One person who can manage the whole thing. And that person can't be the president has other things to do. So I designated one person who was a very good manager of events. Now, she was relatively junior in the organization. But for this one thing, I gave her the power to tell even a dean or a vice president, no, you can't do that. For this 3-day event, well, actually it was 2 days, but one evening of the previous day. For this 2.5, 3-day event, you are going to be the boss of everybody. You tell people when to come, when to do this, when each thing works. Everything has to work beautifully, no delays in time and so on. So actually, if we are taking someone on a tour, we actually did the walking tour, said this takes 10 minutes, you're not allowed to take 12 minutes. You have to finish it in this time. Everything works in this way. And we walked that whole thing through, and she did a wonderful job, and we made a first-class impression. And when the board left, they said, we've never been on a campus visit that's so good. Now that impression lasts for at least 20 years or whenever they come back next. So that's the kind of quality. So we designate one person. You can't just designate the person and then second guess her or him every time. You have to designate that person and give that person the authority to get it done. So that's something, as I said, you can use tomorrow. Designate a person, designate a timeline, and give that person the authority for that thing to get it done and get it done well. So these are my points about transformational leadership. We've covered a lot. Excuse me for keeping you so long, and that comes to an end of my presentation. So let me go back to, okay. I'd be happy to take questions, and Dr. Patil or Dr. Naresh Chandra or whoever wants to coordinate this, you can do that. So I'm available to answer any questions from anyone.
Thank you, sir. We have few questions. have come up. There's one question, which is, how would you differentiate between a transactional leader and a transformational leader?
A transactional leader is one who just lives for the moment. Everything is a straightforward transaction with him or her. You know, I only worry about what's good for the next few days and only worry about what's good for me. A transformational leader is, first of all, not thinking of himself or herself, but thinking only of the institution. I already mentioned several times in this thing where I was deliberately deflecting credit, deliberately being humble enough to say other people did it, relying on very smart people, much smarter than myself, who could do this. So the transformational leader is not thinking of himself or herself. The transformational leader is not thinking of tomorrow or the next quarter or how do I look good in the short term. The transformational leader is thinking way beyond that. My whole philosophy, and I didn't think of this phrase, it belongs to someone else, but I've forgotten who. I want to plant trees under the shade of which I will never sit. Let me say that again. My objective is to plant trees under the shade of which I will never sit, meaning I'm not even going to get the benefit of this stuff. It's going to last much, much beyond me. So that's the difference. Two major differences: that I'm not thinking of myself and I'm not thinking in the short term.
Sir, there's another question which says, the current pandemic has accelerated the shift to online technology. So for many of us, this shift has been very sudden. So as teachers, how can we prepare ourselves for better online teaching?
It's a tough question, and there's no easy answer. Let's understand that. It's always, when you're learning a new technology, it takes time. So we too had the same situation. I mean, we actually, March 11th, I taught my last class, and then suddenly we were told that we got a 1 week break, and then said when they come back from break, everything's going to be online. So everything had to change in 1 week. Now, it was a little easier for me because I had taught some online stuff before, but it was very difficult for people who had never been online. So, and it was difficult for me too, because I'm by no means an online expert. So I have a lot to learn. I am right now engaged in planning how I will handle my courses in the fall. We don't know whether we are going to be fully online or fully face-to-face or some sort of a hybrid. So we have to prepare for all eventualities. There is no easy answer. It has to be a gradual learning process. Shouldn't say gradual because we don't have much time, but a learning process. And so faculty have to be very willing to learn, and students too have to be very, very willing to learn and to be tolerant of these things. It's not going to be perfect the first time we do it. Nothing we ever do the first time is fine. We learn. This is called, again, using a management term, a learning curve or an experience curve. You get better the more you make of a certain thing, whatever that thing is, you get better at doing it. So the same thing applies to learning online as well. So there's no easy fix for it. So all of us have to be speedy and have to be tolerant. Now, let me tell you, a separate thing. In America, at least, we are hearing that students really want to have the face-to-face experience. They are, as I said, about mid-March, we shut everything down in terms of face-to-face. So by the time we open again, it will be mid-August. So that's April, May, June, July, August. That's a long time. That's not quite 6 months, but that's about 5 months of being online. And students want to have that face-to-face experience again. That's what we are hearing. I don't think we should risk people's lives to do that, but nonetheless, that's what we are hearing. Sorry, please go on.
Okay. Sir, there's a question which says, in this pandemic, there are many universities and colleges which are cancelling their exams. So do you feel this is worthy? And along with that, there's a question which is also saying, with the university that you're associated with. Okay, so does your university also cancel exam or no in such a pandemic situation?
No, we are not cancelling exams. We are changing the type of it. We fortunately have some technology that allows us to administer exams, and most of our students have laptops and computers or something like that. So if you have a webcam, there's a piece of software called Respondus, and I'm not recommending or endorsing anything. I've just used it myself before the pandemic, called Respondus Lockdown Browser, which I intend to use if we are online in the fall. Some of my colleagues have already used it, and it actually records by video what you are doing. So if you are, first of all, it does not allow you to use any web resources on your computer. But of course, you have your phone next to you, and you can cheat if you want on your phone. Well, the camera will record what you're doing. So the camera is seeing you type on your computer. If I pick up my phone and I go like this, the faculty member will be able to see that I'm doing that. So there are not perfect methods, but there are methods to go around it. Let me tell you what I did when I changed the type of exams that I have. So right now I'm preparing my courses for the fall. I'm having, first of all, fewer tests. I'm having different kind of tests. I'm having a project report. I had a project report and a presentation. I canceled the oral presentation and gave more points to the report. But you still need some assessment. You still need to assess, and that's up to the faculty member. How will you assess learning? I don't think we can abandon assessment. We can abandon a particular form of a test. So that's what I believe, at least.
Thank you, sir. There's one more question which says, do you have any idea about the dimensions of transformational leaders? And if there are any such dimensions, do they overlap with each other?
Help me understand, because the dimensions that I mentioned are some of the dimensions of transformational leadership. So I've already gone through those. I'm not sure that we need to list any more. As I said, it all starts with the first two things I mentioned, very important. One is to have a vision. To have a vision for your unit, for your department, for your college, for your university, you need to have a vision. The second thing is you need to be able to communicate that vision orally and in writing. One thing I glossed over in my talk was repetition is a good thing. So let me refer to that. That's, again, a very uniquely marketing thing. So think of an advertising message. You don't just hear it once and remember it. It's repeated. Sometimes it gets annoying if it's repeated so often. But annoying or not, people remember it. Okay, so that repetition is a good thing. So the message that a leader wants to convey to his or her colleagues, employees, sometimes may need repetition and repeated repetition, if I can use that phrase. So yes, that's something that's part of those things. So there are many ingredients. I'm not pretending that I got all of them, but these are the ones that I consider most important, the ones that I went through earlier. And as I said, I will never pretend to be the authority. This is the only answer. I have simply said, I said this at the beginning of my talk, These things have worked for me. The vision, the communication, the humility, the boldness, simply asking for help. Now, here I'm going to get into gender traffic over here. Women have always understood that it's a good thing to ask for help. Men have never understood that. That's just plain dumb. I'm sorry that I'm discounting 50% of the human race like that, but I think that the women have the right answer. The right answer to ask for help, to have the humility to ask for help. So I don't care whether it's called a female characteristic or a male characteristic. If it works for me, I'm going to embrace it and adopt it. So I do believe in both the boldness and the humility. And I'm recommending, because I know that there are many males and many females in the audience, and I'm recommending to both of them that both genders embrace both the boldness and the humility. And if you don't have the humility, which is typically a male kind of hang up, not to have humility, that you are hurting yourself and you're hurting your organization. So that's my one sexist comment, if you like, for the day. And the sexism is against the males, not against the females, because the females got it right many decades ago. It's only the males have to catch up with that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. What is the impact of transformational leadership on intellectual capital?
Well, it's global. When we talked in my talk, I talked about largely the physical things, the buildings and the growth and so on. But I did refer to, and so did the introduction, refer to the different kind of institution. As I said, we were a college when I arrived, and then by the time I left, we were a Carnegie Doctoral Research University. That title hadn't been given yet, but it was done, and we were a SACS Level 6 institution. That's the highest you can be. So that happens with PhD programs, with doctoral programs in general, which intellectual development, with getting brilliant students, with getting, again, attracting the best students and so on and so forth. So it remarkably increases the intellectual capital as well. I didn't mention this, but let me tell you of a program that I started when I became president, called the Advanced Academy of Georgia. In that program, there was a truly unique program, though there are a few like that in the country. We actually invited high school students to leave their high school and be full-time college students. These were very good quality students. And they would physically leave their high school, and they would come and start as a college first-year student without having finished high school. And they would finish their bachelor's degree, again, without ever having finished high school. Some of them did finish high school, some of them didn't. But once they had their bachelor's degree, nobody cared. And those students were truly brilliant. We had students go from West Georgia, which is a great place, but it's not a household name. I understand that. From there, they went to Harvard, to Yale, to Columbia, to Stanford, to awesome places. And all that was possible because we bent the rules, with permission, of course, bent the rules and invited them to come. We, by the way, also had some international students come. We had, to the best of my knowledge, 3 students from India, from Mumbai, who came, who did a brilliant job. They came as a 16-year-old. They came to us. So at that time, they had not finished their 12th standard, but they were full-time students in the university. And they got involved with undergraduate research. They presented nationally. Some of these competitions we've talked about where we beat everyone in the nation, they were part of that. They did a phenomenal job. All three of them, when they finished their bachelor's program with us, they went directly into a PhD program. They skipped the master's completely. They were so good. All these three from India, from Mumbai. So we had that, and I can tell you, even if you have 2 or 3 of such students in your class, I'm talking to the faculty now, or the students, you have 2 or 3 of these students, the quality of the discussion in the class increases dramatically. Even if there's 2 of these students in a class of 35, the intellectual level goes up. If these students are in your doing research, because these people are doing actual research, these are undergraduate students doing research projects, again, the quality of the interaction goes up. So yes, the transformational leadership can grow intellectual capital as well.
Yes, thank you, sir. There's one very interesting question which has come up by Mr. Tarun Kukian. He says, good evening, sir. How should the leadership of MNCs respond to the Black Lives Matter movement?
I believe very clearly there is no doubt in my mind that the reason for the Black Lives Matter movement is because Black people were being treated very badly. You know, people criticizing, what do you mean Black Lives Matter? Why don't all lives matter? Well, the reason why we don't say all lives matter is because the Black lives were being treated terribly, as if they didn't matter. The other people were not necessarily being treated in that way. Of course, there are exceptions. There have been bad exceptions even to Indian people in America. But by and large, it's the Blacks who were treated badly. So absolutely, if I were CEO of an organization or of an MNC or whatever, I would come out very clearly in support for the Black Lives Matter movement, in support for the Me Too movement. These are movements whose time I won't say has come, because it should have come 50 years ago, but nonetheless, these are movements that needed to be addressed, and I would support them totally. Excuse me. Yes. No doubt in my mind. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Okay, sir, thank you. Sir, in SPA, you said we appoint a person who will get work done.
Yes.
But what are the chances that the person whom we choose would be efficient in his working?
Well, you choose the person accordingly, and of course there should be the leadership team of any institution should have some good people there, and if you're not an efficient worker, then you need to rotate off and get someone else who can do the job. So you choose the best person you have, and the best person may not have the title of assistant principal or vice president or whatever. The best person, this person who I talked about, did not have a vice president title, did not have a dean title. She was just the best person to get it done. Again, separate concept, separate different time. Before I knew of these words, SPA, but use the concept, I use the concept. When we started this Advanced Academy of Georgia, I asked around, because I was relatively new, I asked around who might have the skills to do that. So if you're not hung up on titles, you find a person, that person was an assistant professor in her first year when we started the Advanced Academy of Georgia. And people said, well, she's come with a lot of experience from the school system, and she's worked with children before and so on. So we said, well, if she is the best person, I didn't know her at that time. I now know her very well. We appointed her to be the first director of the Advanced Academy of Georgia. And she did a phenomenal job. But you have to vest in that person the power to get it done. You can't be then second guessing that person all the time. And when I appointed someone, I didn't want a daily report from them. I wanted them to do their job. I wanted them to get in touch with me if they needed help. I didn't need to know what detailed decisions they were making. I needed maybe a monthly, just things are going well, things are not going well, I need help in this, that kind of thing. So there shouldn't be this constant second guessing. Again, part of humility, let me say this again very clearly. This campus that I had the honor of leading was a 645-acre campus with, I'm just going to make up a number, say 100 plus, maybe 100 to 150 buildings, a budget of $150 million, an employee size of about 1,500 employees. There is no way that I can pretend, nor would I want to, that I know everyone's job. I don't. Do you think really, even after a long time as president, let alone my first year, but after a long time as president, that I would know the details of what a construction worker does? Well, I would know the details of how the person in charge of the lawns, what flowers he chose and what grass he chose. You think I know anything about that? I know nothing. When we built 40 new buildings, how much do you think I know about construction management? I don't know about construction management. I'm an electrical engineer from IIT Bombay. We may have had, one class or two classes in this sort of thing. What do I know? I don't know this. So let me keep my mouth shut and get out of the way and let these talented people do their work. So that's my philosophy. It comes from both a sense of confidence and a sense of humility. If you can say, as president, as a leader, I don't know. Teach me what I need to know, and the rest of it, you're fine. So if you can just bring yourself to say, I don't know everything that goes on. You guys, my job is to hire the best people and get out of their way. That's what I believe my job is. And for 19 years, this institution grew and thrived with a president who was easily able to admit that he doesn't know. That's very important. That's part of humility and it's part of confidence.
Thank you, sir. One last question. What would be the top 3 books on leadership that you would recommend students to read?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would not be able to come up with that, but some of the classics, which are not written as books on leadership necessarily, that I would definitely recommend Tom Friedman's book On the World is Flat. This is a dated book, but Tom Friedman has a grasp of what's happening in the world. So notice that I'm not talking about management books. Tom Friedman would not say his book is a management book, but this expands the mind. There are also the standard old books of X habits of highly effective people and so on. These are classics, which I would not ignore, but are good books to have read and to have understood and so on. So it's not so much a prescriptive thing about you need to do this in these particular things. It's being intellectually growing your mind and having awareness of world events, having awareness of how we are interconnected. These are some of the books that I would recommend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for patiently answering all our questions.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I now request our director, Dr. Naresh Chandra sir, to give his concluding remarks for the session.
It's an excellent interaction, very simple, and what can change? What we can see excellence, is reflected in Professor Beheruz Sethna's lecture today. I was all the time thinking some of my senior colleagues will agree. It was looking like some of when we go down memory lane in our institution, something common can be seen. And today, we have not yet become deemed to be university, but we are all set to become deemed to be university. But we are recognized as one of the top 50, 60 institutions of higher education in the country with a tag of College of Excellence from University Grants Commission, which is the highest apex body regulating higher education system in our country. He talks so simply and how he has seen the change, got it done with all his colleagues. I also had an opportunity to visit University of West Georgia when he was the president, and Dr. Indu Shahani, she was the leader of our delegation, and one full day we were with him and the University of West Georgia. It was so encouraging, so enriching, and we had moved forward. We have developed beautiful relationship between two of our institutions. We also meet and participate at International Economic Convention every year, being hosted in Mumbai by Hyderabad Sindh National Collegiate Board, and there students from UWG and BK Birla College, they come closer, they understand each other. They also visit BK Birla College, our institution, and they have always, every year when they visit, they get impressed by, they learn, they understand what we have, how we take care of our students. I was also talking at the beginning with Professor Beheruz Sethna that we'll be extremely happy to have, if possible, a joint or as a sharing of modules, whatever way possible, a short-term certificate program online. And the students of BK Birla College and University of West Georgia, or even some other students may join. If that happens, it will be a very good initiative from our side. His thoughts on simplicity, humility, repetition, good communication, positive communication, sharing ideas, motivating, appreciating the efforts of colleagues, and then ultimately accountability. All that has made me learn once again. Learning is a continuous process for everyone in life, is irrespective of young or old. And again, we have learned few lessons today from his talk. It's a beautiful presentation, and we thank you very much, sir, for making this possible. I'm sure it will be all of our students and my colleagues will acknowledge with will take it forward, and our institution will create more leaders and will work towards, in our students, creating many, many more leaders to perform for the cause. With this note, once again, our heartfelt thanks to our esteemed guest, Professor Beheruz Sethna. Thank you. I also would like to thank all my colleagues organizing this event, whether from Department of Management Studies or from IT. Ms. Akansha, Mrs. Iyer, and the Vice Principal, Mrs. Smita Gupta, and all those who have helped in making it possible. The very best to you. A big thank you to you. God bless all of us, all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry to keep you so late. It's 10. What is the time in India? What is the time?
It's 7:40, 7:43.
7:43.
No, it is not late.
Okay.
It's the best investment of our time listening to you.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to request Dr. Mahadeo Yadav, sir, to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Saroj. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Saroj. John C. Maxwell said that a great leader's courage to fulfill his vision comes from passion, not position. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Good evening to one and all present here, and good morning to keynote speaker, Dr. Beheruz Sethna. On behalf of Department of Economics and Management Studies, I, Dr. Mahadeo Yadav, Head Department of Business Economics, take this opportunity to deliver the vote of thanks. At first, I would like to propose hearty vote of thanks to our eminent keynote speaker, Dr. Beheruz N. Sethna, President Emeritus and Regents, Professor of Business, Research College of Business, University of West Georgia, Carrollton, USA, for accepting our invitation and gracing today's webinar. Sir, you have started your talk by saying that how you have transformed West Georgia College into university, and then you did cover many ingredients for transformational leadership like vision, communication, modeling behavior, teamwork and humility, decision making, and the SPA, that is single point accountability. Sir, your talk has been very fruitful and beneficial for students and whole teaching community. The way in which you explained this topic was remarkable and extraordinary. My enormous respect to you, sir. I also wish to express my gratitude to Dr. Naresh Chandra, sir, Director, Education, Birla College. Sir is always known for his devotion and dedication to update the education machinery. Thank you, sir, for your guidance and encouragement. I also extend my sincere thanks to Principal Dr. Avinash Patil, sir, for his keen interest, guidance, and active involvement to make this international webinar a reality. I give my sincere thanks to Dr. Swapna Samir, Madam, Principal BK Birla Knight College, and all principals of BK Birla College Autonomous Kalyan. I would also like to show my gratitude to the management of BK Birla College for their unconditional support. I am very happy to express vote of thanks to faculty members from Birla College and for attending this webinar. I convey my special thanks to Vinod Rajput and his team for the technical support. Finally, the wonderful participants who have turned up in such a great number, not only from Birla College, but from other colleges. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Once again, thank you one and all who supported directly or indirectly to this webinar. Now I conclude my vote of thanks with these words of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. He says that don't take rest after your first victory, because if you fail in second, more lips are waiting to say that your first victory was just luck. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Thank you.
1 minute, Professor Mahadeo Yadav.
Yes, sir.
I would like to, I'm sorry, I missed Department of Economics and Business Economics.
Thank you, sir.
So my special thanks, Professor Yadav,
Yes.
and all the colleagues to make it very wonderful session. And Professor Sethna, we are receiving several appreciations for your talk.
Thank you.
You are looking, you wanted to have feedback, is a great appreciation coming from different corners. I think more than 350 people have attended. So it's a wonderful.
Did you say 350?
Yeah, more than 350.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you, Principal Patil.
All our
Thank
best wishes.
Thank you.